Hello, this is Ruth Hollingshead, trustee for Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News.
Site for Wight Talking News for Friday the 17th of July 2020.
This is Den reading from the Isle of Wight Observer. Lookout Tower demolition refused by Council. The demolition of a historic watchtower in Freshwater has been refused by the Isle of Wight Council. Proposals submitted by Linstone Chine Management Company sought approval for the demolition of the former Coastguard lookout, which overlooks Fort Albert, as it is in danger of collapse. According to planning documents, the lookout, which sits on top of the Cliff End Battery, is in a derelict condition, with a partially collapsed roof and doorways and no safe access to the first floor. The company was asking for planning permission to demolish the structure as soon as possible. However, in a letter, as the local planning authority, the Isle of Wight Council rejected planning permission on two grounds. The first was insufficient information had been supplied to give evidence that the building had not been rendered unsafe by the action or inaction of any person having an interest in the land, and that it was not practical to secure safety by works of repair or works of affording temporary support. The second was the demolition had the potential to cause harm or disturbance to protected species, potentially bats and reptiles, that were afforded legal protection under the Wildlife and Countryside Act. A wildlife impact assessment would also need to be supplied, setting out the potential impact of the demolition and how that would be avoided or mitigated. The applicant is able to appeal the decision of the local planning authority. However, the decision to demolish the lookout has been met with backlash from the local community, who want to see it retained as part of the island's history. One local resident said they objected to the proposal in the strongest terms possible, as the observation tower is a vital part of the West Wight's military heritage. Although others have supported the application due to the unsafe nature of the structure, which stands on top of an electric power station and could collapse.
Hello everyone, this is Steve reading that article from the Isle of Wight County Press headlined Whitelink's Yarmouth to Leamington ferry route restarts. Whitelink sailings are running between Yarmouth and Leamington again from today, that's Friday the 17th of July, after months of suspension due to coronavirus. Passengers must wear face coverings, leave their cars for the crossing and use the lounge. Toilets will be open. However, ticket offices are closed and passengers will be buying tickets online and via the phone, and it is limited crossings. The Fast Cat service remains suspended.
This is Sue reading an article from the Island Echo. MP speaks up for independent pharmacies. Independent chemists struggling to make ends meet during COVID-19 pandemic have received support from the government's Pharmacies Minister following demands for action in the House of Commons by the Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley. Bob introduced a debate on Monday following a request for help from local independent pharmacist Tim Gibbs of Yarmouth Pharmacy. Seeley said pharmacies had suffered the double blow of having to pay for additional resources such as safety screens at a time when over-the-counter sales had fallen away because of lockdown. This was particularly felt in places like Yarmouth, where visitor purchases supplemented local trade. Bob said pharmacy staff saw patients in person and ensured that the public, particularly vulnerable patients, had a consistent and safe supply of medicine. In doing so, they took considerable pressure off other elements of the health service. He said although government support for independent pharmacies during the pandemic was welcome, the funding for pharmacies had shrunk by a significant amount in recent years. If pharmacists are left holding the bag for the costs that they have incurred throughout serving their communities in the past few months, many of them, including Tim, are worried they will not be forced to shut down in the next year or two. I believe that this would be a national shame. The ongoing uncertainty is an additional burden that pharmacists just do not need. In response, Pharmacy Minister Joe Churchill said, "Community pharmacies across the country, including those on the island, are at the very heart of our community. Everyone agrees they play a vital role in providing medicines and health advice to all those who cross their threshold. We will continue to work closely with the Pharmaceutical Services Negotiating Committee, NHS England and NHS Improvement, to consider what further support and funding contractors will need during the pandemic as we move into the recovery phase. We have just entered discussions on firm proposals for additional funding put forward by the government to meet the extra costs incurred by pharmacists at the peak of the pandemic. I thank the member for Isle of Wight for securing this important debate. I know that the coming months will continue to be challenging for Tim and the other community pharmacists, but it is really important they know quite how much they are valued by members from all parties, but mostly by their communities. I am personally committed to continue to do all that I can to support community pharmacies, which are an essential part of our lives, our high street and our NHS family."
This is Brian reading an article from On the Wight. Government award further 1.23 million to Isle of Wight Council in COVID-19 funding. The government say the money is being distributed to councils based on population and levels of deprivation, and how the costs of delivery of services varies across the country. Local Government Secretary Robert Jenrick yesterday confirmed allocations for individual councils from the £500 million of additional support for coronavirus-related spending pressures. They say the funding will help councils in England continue to deliver crucial frontline services, support those most in need, and meet new spending pressures so they can deliver for residents. Isle of Wight allocation. The Isle of Wight Council will receive an additional £1,236,137 towards the cost of delivering frontline services during COVID-19 crisis. During the COVID crisis, they've received an additional £10,277,565. Tranche 1, £5,015,960. Tranche 2, £4,025,468, and Tranche 3, £1,236,137. Additional cost due to island status. The government say the money is being distributed to councils based on populations and levels of deprivation, and how the costs of delivery of services varies across the country. Studies carried out by Portsmouth University reveal that due to the island's unique status, it costs the Isle of Wight Council £6.4 million more to deliver services than other local authorities on the mainland. The Isle of Wight Council and Bob Seeley MP, as far back as 2018, have been lobbying for this to be recognised by the government, but to date the additional funding has not been forthcoming. Even before COVID-19, Isle of Wight Council said they were facing a £10 million black hole in their budget.
Alison, reading from the Island Echo. Local NHS patients to be offered private surgery to clear backlog. More than 100 patients will be offered the chance to have their surgery done privately on the mainland to clear the considerable backlog of treatments the Isle of Wight NHS Trust now faces in the aftermath of the first wave of COVID-19. A senior leader of the Trust has spoken of the difficult task they will face going forward with operations because of COVID restrictions. During the pandemic, elective surgery as well as other hospital procedures were put on hold so the Trust could provide care for patients most affected by the virus. This included building a field hospital and medical assessment unit, as well as transferring some outpatient facilities to different areas of St Mary's Hospital or out into the community. As services start to resume, however, some patients could face a long wait as the Trust tries to clear the considerable backlog that has amassed due to the stopping of services. Joe Smith, the Trust's Chief Operating Officer for Acute and Ambulance Services, told a meeting of the Isle of Wight Council's Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Health and Social Care the Trust was trying to restore services and get things back online to help clear the backlog, but it would take a while to be at full operational capacity. He said, "It is a difficult task because the restrictions imposed on us by COVID, the wearing of PPE and separating emergency flows from elective flows, means we are only at 66% of the theatre capacity. That means the number of operations we can do is significantly reduced. Over the next month, we will be able to bring all the theatres online, so we are going to do some work that will allow us to keep the separation of flows and keep people safe. Unfortunately, there is no cure or no vaccine at the moment. That means other restrictions to keep staff and patients safe will need to remain in place, which will slow the number of procedures that can go through theatres." Mr. Smith said the best case scenario would be for elective capacity to be up to 70% in September, but that wasn't enough to eat into the backlog. The Trust has been working with the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Sustainability and Transformation Partnership and through the private sector to see how it can get additional capacity to get the waiting lists down. This means some 125 patients will be offered the chance to have their procedure done through private care on the mainland and will be contacted by the NHS in the next few days. Mr. Smith said, "We are hoping we can get those people to take up that offer because the backlogs are significant. MRI and CT scans are also only operating at 70% capacity, but Mr. Smith hopes with additional central funding, extra MRI and CT machines can be brought in, so the current backlog will be cleared by March next year. In the outpatient department, plans are being formed to ask patients to remain in their vehicles until they are called in for their appointment, and to keep going the virtual ways people have been seen through the height of the pandemic, to stop patients unnecessarily coming onto site." Mr. Smith said, "We will be writing to all patients to explain what the situation is and where the waiting lists are. The reason we haven't done it yet is because we are still working through what the implications are, trying to work out the lists, and we are reprioritising people on that list."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Ferry. Isle of Wight businesses urged to tell the UK we're good to go. Visit Isle of Wight, the island's destination management organisation, is urging local businesses to apply for a free national charter mark that will highlight the quality and high standards that Isle of Wight businesses have to offer. The We're Good to Go charter mark is a free countrywide scheme operated by the National Tourist Board Visit England, developed alongside Visit Isle of Wight and a few other leading tourism organisations. Visit Isle of Wight recognised the importance of helping to reassure visitors that when the time was right, Holidaymakers should feel confident that where they book was part of a national accreditation scheme. Work on the scheme started in late April with Visit Cornwall, Visit Cumbria, Visit England and others to ensure that the We're Good to Go scheme was ready to be rolled out across the country. Now, Visit Isle of Wight is encouraging all island businesses, from accommodation to eating and drinking venues, attractions, events and activity providers and transport providers, to make sure they have the We're Good to Go accreditation, which is free and couldn't be simpler to fill out, as it is based on the business's own risk assessment. Will Miles, Managing Director of Visit Isle of Wight, said, "The free accreditation scheme is an important part of the national campaign to encourage economic growth of the important tourism sector and sits with the Isle of Wight Welcomes You promotional campaign developed locally by island businesses."
This is Chris, reading an article from On the Wight. Wessex Cancer Trust and Hover Travel launch new travel charter for cancer patients. Sometimes really small changes can make the world of difference, especially if you are travelling to and from cancer treatment. As coronavirus lockdown measures begin to ease and more people start to use public transport, Wessex Cancer Trust and Hover Travel have launched a charter to reassure cancer patients that their journey between the Isle of Wight and Portsmouth will be as safe and relaxed as possible. This includes giving Wessex Cancer Trust clients priority boarding, directing them to Wessex Cancer Trust's Daisy bus for transport to the QA hospital, limiting the number of passengers on the Daisy bus to allow additional space between passengers. Special lanyard. Hover Travel and Wessex Cancer Trust have developed a special lanyard so cancer patients can display their Hover Care ID badge and are easily identifiable to Hover Travel staff. The lanyards can be ordered on the website. Strict set of protocols. Hover Travel staff are following a strict set of protocols in order to minimise the risk to their passengers and staff. All passengers can expect that Hover Travel staff will be wearing face coverings on the crafts, and tills, toilet and hand washing facilities are available in both terminals. The number of people in the terminal will be monitored and limited, and both craft and terminals are cleaned after every flight appropriately. As guidelines are being regularly reviewed, this particular charter will remain in place until the end of July. Pre-book your flight. Hover Travel is asking everyone to pre-book so that capacity can be managed on board and patients can travel at their preferred time and not experience delays if they arrive at a fully booked craft. NHS patients are entitled to a discount and are asked to use this link when booking. Managing passenger volumes on each flight. Loretta Lale, Head of Commercial at Hover Travel, adds, "In line with our ongoing risk assessment approach, our teams are managing the passenger volumes on each flight, allowing household members to sit together whilst other customers are separated by a seat for the brief under 10-minute journey. Lanyard will help passengers." Colette Cowan, Wessex Cancer Trust's Head of Service Delivery, says it is still a particularly anxious time for cancer patients and they may be feeling vulnerable. Hover Travel and Wessex Cancer Trust felt it was really important to develop this charter to show cancer patients that we understand how they might be feeling and to reassure them that we're taking extra precautions to ensure their journey is as safe and stress-free as possible. We hope that by wearing the lanyard, Wessex Cancer Trust clients will be able to subtly show staff and their fellow passengers that they are taking extra care, might not be feeling their best, and would appreciate a little more help.
This is Howard reading an article from the Island Echo. The government has confirmed that face coverings will have to be worn in shops and supermarkets from Friday 24th of July, but the police say they simply can't enforce it. Islanders who go against the new rules could be fined £100, reduced to £50 if paid within 2 weeks, but this will be policed by Hampshire Constabulary, not shop workers. However, John Apter, the chairman of the Police Federation, has said there simply isn't enough police officers to carry out the task. There are some exceptions to wearing a face covering. Children under 11 are not required to wear a mask or covering, nor are those with certain disabilities, including those who have difficulty due to a mental disability. The idea is not only to protect those who work in retail, but to instill more confidence in shoppers to really kickstart the economy and potentially save the high street. Those who don't wear a face covering can be refused entry into a premises. Face coverings are already compulsory on public transport, and islanders have to wear face coverings when visiting the hospital or doctors. This latest development will bring England in line with Scotland and European countries such as Spain and Italy. Speaking earlier today, Health Secretary Matt Hancock said, "In recent weeks we've reopened retail. We want to give more confidence. Sales assistants, cashiers and security guards have suffered disproportionately in this crisis. As we restore shopping, so we must keep our shopkeepers safe." A spokesman for Downing Street has said, "There is growing evidence that wearing a face covering in an enclosed space helps protect individuals and those around them from coronavirus." The Prime Minister has been clear that people should be wearing face coverings in shops and will make this mandatory from 24th of July.
This is Sue reading an article from the Isle of Wight Observer. Advanced technology that will improve eye health. St Mary's Hospital is now equipped with new and innovative technology that will improve diagnosis of a patient's eye disease. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust Ophthalmology Department have a new Optus Ultra Wide Field Retina camera that will enable virtual clinic transformations and quality improvement. It has been purchased by the Trust to provide patients with a new virtual eye service. The Optus camera will allow patients to be monitored in a faster time without waiting room delays. This will also improve diagnosis for eye patients. The consultations and further advice can be arranged and patients updated without necessarily waiting to see the doctor on the same day. Follow-up imaging can also be arranged, with further treatment plans advised remotely. The camera captures a diagnostic photograph of the back of the eye, retina. Almost 90% of the retina can now be viewed digitally rather than 20 to 30% with standard eye cameras. Patients with retina disease may attend macular degeneration, vein occlusions, diabetes, inherited eye disease, retinal detachment and retinal laser indications. Glaucoma will also be monitored using software to view optic nerves in 3 dimensions. These patients may be able to drive to and fro new virtual optics clinic visits without needing any transport from family and friends. The new Optus camera will be imaging eyes without temporarily blurring from dilating eye drops. A clinical lead for ophthalmology said, "This is a very exciting period of growth and virtual clinic innovation at the hospital's eye department. Our patient-centred care is supported by the most advanced technologies and diagnostics available. We are currently involved in innovative international research data, Pinnacle study, and a new retina study reviewing the impact of a common medication on normal eye health. Our team was also involved in the first virtual Word Ophthalmology Congress 2020, teaching other eye surgeons in 100 countries last year. We are very proud of the excellent care received by our eye patients before and throughout the pandemic. This year's extraordinary cataract surgery results, compared with national cataract data, highlights the quality of this successful team and eye department.
Hi everyone, this is Steve, and I'm reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press headlined Gurnard Sailing Club awarded National Youth Excellence status. Gurnard Sailing Club has been named a British Youth Sailing, that's BYS, recognised club as part of the Royal Yacht Association scheme celebrating excellence in developing the best young racing sailors in the world. The BYS recognised club initiative sees the sport's governing body, the RYA, working alongside sailing clubs around the country to promote grassroots sailing and support junior and youth sailors as they develop racing skills. Gurnard Sailing Club was recognised for its thriving junior and youth sailing and racing pathway, which gives children, from as young as 5, their first experience of sailing and develops their racing skills as they progress through the club's youth and junior race and training programmes. Luke Bradley, a Gurnard Sailing Club Junior Pathway Coordinator, said, "Our junior and youth sailing is really thriving at the moment. This is a product of many years' dedicated effort towards this aim. It is great that this is being acknowledged through our new British Youth Sailing status. To help introduce local youngsters to sailing, the club's racing pathway begins with Sharks and Dolphins, held every Saturday morning, at which children learn how to sail a dinghy in a fun and safe environment." Luke commented, "The Sharks and Dolphins pathway for our youngest children is all about fun. They go afloat with their parents and friends and have a fun time, which usually involves them, and more often than not the parents, getting very wet. This builds confidence afloat, and the youngsters start to learn to sail without realising that it's happening. The club's successful racing pathway helps develop youngsters' sailing skills, with many going on to compete in regional, national and international championships. Youth squad members in the 29er class recently won last year's national championship. During 2019, the club was also represented by 5 sailors at the Optimist class nationals and 6 sailors at the Terra class nationals. Gurnard also has sailors participating in the Optimist, 420 and 29er regional and national squads. Gurnard Sailing Club also organises class-specific training. Last autumn, the club ran a very successful programme of RS Terra training, which was attended by over 20 sailors, with coaching led by Olympic and Paralympic British sailor Helena Lucas MBE. The event also incorporated the inaugural Isle of Wight Terra Championships. The club believes that providing sailing opportunities for children is very important to the local community. Children not only learn to sail in the lovely setting of Gurnard Bay, but also develop life skills along the way. Many of the club's junior sailors become the next generation of assistant instructors and dinghy instructors. Families without their own boats are also catered for. The club has 12 dinghies to enable children without their own boat to participate in sail training and club racing. Gurnard has also linked up with a local sailing centre, the UKSA, and plans to provide 2 youngsters from the local area a free place on its cadet training programme. The club also subsidises its youth sailors to gain instructor and powerboat qualifications. Luke added, "This not only provides the club with the resources required to deliver training, but also gives the children qualifications and experience which they can take with them far and wide." During lockdown, when Gurnard's juniors couldn't get afloat, many embraced e-sailing and took part in online virtual regatta racing. This proved to be an excellent platform for the youngsters, helping them see racing from a different angle and develop new skills. With the easing of restrictions, Gurnard's youngsters have now been allowed back on the water and have been making up for lost time. With no formal racing at the club at the moment, they have been heading out in small groups for fun sailing and informal training. Luke added, They are very self-motivated, with some sailing pretty much every day when the conditions are good. Duncan West, the regional manager of performance for the South region, said, "The BYS recognised club scheme distinguishes those sailing clubs with a commitment to the development of junior and youth racing and race training, which is delivered in a safe and fun environment. Gurnard Sailing Club does this very successfully, and I warmly congratulate Gurnard on achieving BYS recognised club status." He added, "The key challenge for our sport is to encourage more young people to start sailing at a young age and progress into racing. This is best done at club level, with successful training and racing programmes which will enable a club to flourish. Gurnard is a fine example of this. Love boating? Then why not join the association that promotes and protects safe, successful and rewarding British boating? Join today and support the Royal Yacht Association in protecting your boating rights and freedoms. Take advantage of free advice and support on all aspects of your boating, as well as enjoying a range of fantastic personal member offers. You can find out more by calling 02380 604 159, or you can email member services at member.services@rya.org.uk, or visit the website www.rya.org.uk.
Alison, reading from the Isle of Wight Observer. East Cowes receives government support for flood defences. East Cowes is set to receive government support for new flood defences to protect homes and businesses. The news, announced today, comes as part of the government's multi-billion-pound investment plans to tackle flooding and coastal erosion across the country. East Cowes will receive a share of a £170 million funding pot, specifically designed to accelerate flood defence construction. The government said the money for East Cowes will be used to reduce the risk of tidal flooding and increase resilience for properties and businesses, including the ferry terminal. Construction will begin within the next 18 months. Island MP Bob Seeley said, "East Cowes is one of 22 shovel-ready flood defence projects to receive this investment from the government, which is great news for East Cowes and the island." The government has chosen to invest in flood defences in East Cowes because of the strong economic benefits it will bring by protecting jobs and businesses. We have seen the effects of flooding on homes and businesses over the years, so I'm delighted that we have been able to secure funding. This investment in East Cowes is in addition to last week's news that the Isle of Wight Council has agreed to press ahead with its purchase of venture quays to protect jobs in the area. The announcement comes ahead of the publication of the Environment Agency's long-term flood and coastal erosion risk management strategy for England, which will set out how the Environment Agency will work with communities to deliver the government's plan.
This is Howard reading an article from On the Wight. National Coast Watch Needles have appointed a new station manager to take over from Tony Stables at the end of his 4-year tenure. During his time, Tony has overseen the awarding of the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, organising a royal visit from HRH to Princess Royal, the awarding of Outstanding Station in the annual external assessment, as well as increasing the membership, particularly in attracting more female watchkeepers. Tony will be remaining as a senior watchkeeper, as well as his other voluntary roles in the community. At the official handover carried out in accordance with COVID-19 restrictions, Tony said, "Notwithstanding a period in April, we have maintained our daily watch over the waters of the Western Solent, albeit with single manning and COVID-19 protocols, and I'm immensely proud of all members of the Needles NCI who responded magnificently throughout the crisis. It's been a privilege to lead the Needles NCI during the past 4 years, and I wish my successor every good fortune." The new station manager is Terry Dimmick, who has been the deputy station manager for the last 3 years. Terry, as well as his membership of NCI, is also a local parish councillor.
This is Den reading from On the Wight. High Street presence for West Wight Heritage Centre. For several years, the group have been operating over various storerooms, filing cabinets and volunteers' homes, but now has a permanent site on Avenue Road. Freshwater Parish Council, FPC, are pleased to announce that they have taken on a lease for a shop in Avenue Road, Freshwater. The premises are to enable the Freshwater and Totland Archive Group to have a proper base for the documents, pictures, books and other artefacts that they have acquired over the years. For several years, the group have been operating over various storerooms, filing cabinets and volunteers' homes. During that time, there has been a growing interest from around the world from people wanting to find out about ancestors and the wider heritage of West Wight. This centre will enable them to make the information more accessible to both residents and visitors and be better protected. They will also be able to create an online digital archive. Anne Bamford, Chairman, Freshwater Parish Council, said, "As Chairman of Freshwater Parish Council, I am delighted that we have been able to support Linda Barnes and her group to be able to start a community heritage centre in West Wight, based in the heart of our village. I wish both her and all her members well with this project." The group, led by Linda Barnes, who said, "Freshwater and Totland Archive Groups are delighted and excited in reaching one of their long-term goals. We have worked for many years with a wonderful selection of archive material, and we have a lot. To be able to share our archives with the community in a hub that is central and with easy access has surpassed our expectation. It would not have happened if we did not have total support and understanding from Freshwater Parish Council. So, when we are open, please come and visit us. We would love to see you." Councillor Adrian Harris, project leader, said, "There is a wealth of heritage within the West Wight, which we now believe can be brought out for the wider world to see. Over the next few years, and with the Archive Group and FPC working together with other groups within the area, this could make this a key location for information about our history."
This is Brian reading a letter to the editor of the Isle of Wight County Press. "Stay in vehicle crossings should remain in place," from Jane Chambers of Didcot. As a frequent traveller to the island on Red Funnel, it has become very clear during the past few weeks that the ferries which sell out fastest are the stay in vehicle crossings. They're sold out really quickly, especially the 4:30 p.m. from East Cowes. So there is obviously a high demand beyond current availability. It seems to me that they should have more, not fewer, and certainly not do away with them altogether. With the island so dependent on visitors, surely the last thing ferries should be doing is deterring people from travelling in an environment considered more COVID secure. And you only have to travel on a ferry now to see that significant numbers of passengers ignore the social distancing advice, one-way systems and mask-wearing rules, despite the best efforts of Red Funnel and their staff. No wonder those ferries sold out so fast.
This is Chris reading a letter to the editor from the County Press. Bus driver abused, from Penelope Baker, Lake. I boarded a number 3 bus on June the 26th, wearing a mask, and witnessed a shameful incident. A man without a face mask got on the bus and started haranguing the driver. He produced a letter apparently stating face masks were not compulsory and threatening to register a complaint against the driver. The man then left the bus before standing in front of the driver and taking a photo of him. He then came inside the bus and went upstairs. Anyone who has used the buses regularly knows how disruptive this virus had been, and drivers have had to change work patterns and face extra questions about timetables, etc. Our drivers are considerate and fair, and I was told by another passenger this particular driver was one of the nicest. He had to drive a difficult route around hairpin bends in Ventnor after being threatened. That is unacceptable. The message about masks on public transport needs to be clear. The day before, Whitelink, who I can only praise for their helpful behaviour, made it clear masks were compulsory on all public transport. It is time our bus drivers had a little more protection from idiotic, threatening passengers.
Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for Wight. As the government eases lockdown, we are still continually watching the latest guidance in order to see when we may be able to reopen the social activities. But currently we still do not have any confirmed dates. On a positive note, staff have started to return to work and are now pulling together our next quarterly newsletter with the latest help and guidance. Also, the audio library is now fully functioning and the Talking News continues to be produced on a weekly basis. Our book club is also up and running, be it virtually, which is free for members to join, with up to 12 books a year being provided on CD or USB stick. Our shop, Dress for Less, is also open with all the necessary precautions in place, with hundreds of summer dresses, outfits and accessories in all styles and colours. It is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m, with Debbie, the shop manager, and her team of valued volunteers on hand ready to help. We have produced a virtual tour of the shop so you can understand the new layout before you enter. This can be found on our website at www.iwsb.org.uk. From the 24th of July, as with all shops, everybody must wear a face mask when entering. This said, people with disabilities who are not able to wear a face mask may be considered to be exempt. If you feel your safety will be compromised by wearing a face mask, then please call us on 522205. We have been working with the Age Friendly Island Initiative and have now got in stock lanyards and cards approved by the Isle of Wight Council stating the wearer is exempt from wearing a face mask. This is a pilot scheme being launched on the island, so please do not hesitate to call us and to get registered on the scheme, as there are a limited number of places. The number again is 522205. So please call us to get registered and receive a lanyard and card stating your exemption from wearing a face mask if wearing one will affect your safety. If you are able to wear a face mask, but you or your partner rely on lip reading, new face masks with clear medical grade plastic around the mouth have now been produced, which we can help you source. So again, please call 522205. The government are removing the BBC TV licence fee exemption for the over 75s. But remember, anyone who is registered severely sight impaired, previously known as registered blind, is entitled to the discount. Please call us on 522205 for further information. We can explain how to be assessed and the procedure to follow. It does not cost anything to become registered. Finally, we would like to thank Vectis Radio for their continued support in allowing us to air the news twice weekly, Saturday 3 till 4 and Tuesday 6 till 7. Please remember to stay safe. As lockdown is eased, the risk is still out there, so please stay safe. Thank you.
My name's Dave Steele. I'm also known as the Blind Poet. How am I meant to social distance when my eyes can't clearly see? They forgot about low vision. This new world's not made for me. But my independence is precious. I will win it back once more. This anxiety in my chest I've best 1,000,000 times before. I refuse to be a prisoner with blindness isolating me. Why should I be penalised for the things I cannot see? People quickly lose their temper. How can they not see my cane? Wish they'd be more understanding. Hope this poem will explain. So please share my words with others, so the powers that may be make these COVID days a little more accessible for me.
Sight for Wight would like to thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Talking News. We would also like to thank our volunteers for reading, and a particular thank you to the Island Echo, Isle of Wight County Press, Isle of Wight Observer, and On the Wight. A special thank you must go to Vectis Radio, who has helped us get vital information to our members.